Okay, you could jump ahead, I guess, if you want to. I'll try to put the time code link in the description to now and the video I just made on what problem I'm facing right now in my effort to not need a relational database. Sort of a difficult thing. But right now I'll show you this video I made prior to getting this point in this weekend. Cheers. So, this anti-database idea, first of all I want to say it's not anti-database. I totally respect databases. They have a great academic backing, research backing. It's just they're like skyscrapers. Sometimes they're nondescript, or sometimes a skyscraper isn't what you need. So I got in this situation where I'm trying to defer the need to do. I have some other important problems. For example, I made a video site. I had to figure out how to do the video conversions with FFmpeg, which is their libav, I guess it's called now, or some people call one fork. Anyway, you have these other things to look into, so you defer it. The first thing I made in the cloud, now I have a bunch of stuff I've made for Google App Engine, but I decided I'd do this cloud. Now to me, a real cloud has to do with commoditizing CPU, which the cloud I'm using has done. I've got a virtual server. All the resources are commoditized. So I'm converting stuff over. Well, the first thing I did wasn't a conversion. It was just a script I had that took, and you can take 6 pictures and it breaks them up, prints them on a page so that you can fold the paper together and get an origami box. Well, I didn't need a database for that. If I was trying to make a web service out of that, like people were going to want to do that a lot, I would. I need to, people can upload images. I'd have to keep track of them. But that wasn't the purpose. Then I made a video upload server. I got to you start to really want a web server there, but I used Apache Auth for the login, and I let the web server write these file uploads and do the conversions. Why? Because none of the other web apps even knew about it yet. But then you get into a problem. You have shared files, right? Like, let's say, so I've uploaded the video with its information, its description and stuff. Fine, nobody else even knew about it, so it was just written. And there were no readers yet. Well, now somebody views the video and I want to update the data structure in there to say, hey, there's another view. Well, how do I do that? If 5 people are watching at once, they'll stomp all over each other's modification. So this is the time you'd want a database app. But instead, I decided, well, for that, looking things up straightforward, I can just make an application that the web server talks to do the writing, to manage it, right? That leads to the next problem where, oh, surely I'll need a database. Well, I want to be able to do searches. I need to do things like, okay, so here's a list of videos. I don't want the whole list of every video, I want just the ones in the last day. I want just the ones by this author, things like that. So what I have is you can save the little data bits, okay? But if you want to look them up by index, you're going to have to do the equivalent of create object, but you're not, or create table. But really you're just creating an object class and you're saying, here's the properties I want you to index by, and the system will create an index so that it can look up by those things. If you want to do a complex query, it'll use more than one index. Once that definition's been defined, the index is kept up to date. For if you create the index and you have a bunch of unindexed data and you want to index it, I have a script that will do that, that I'm working on. So the part that works now is everything up to having these indexes. I'm working on the indexes right now. Okay, so this is in my saga here to do without relational databases, and I have another video I made just on the fact I'm not against relational databases. Basically, halfway through the weekend I finished the main thing I wanted to do, and I got to something that's really difficult to do on my own. I could push off doing it the right way again, and I'm considering that. But I've been looking at, basically, here's the short story. It might not be that short.
I did photogami, didn't need a database, but there were reasons I might have wanted to use one. Then I did the video side, it's able to upload and convert the videos. That's basically a write operation before there's any eligible readers. That's fine. Then you get to this issue of, okay, let's say people view a video and they want to add a property. They want to increment a property. Say, I got a view count wherever that property might be. Now, I'd like to be associated with the other video information. But however that might be laid out on disk, they can't all write to it at once, yeah? Or they'll all read, I have one view and I'm one more, boom, and they'll all write two. Okay, race conditions. So, relational databases, that's not what they're, designed for, but it's one of the many things that they handle. So, I pushed it off. I have my own, this jurisdictional control node thing that goes ahead and can, the web processes can talk to this thing, and it can handle accessing the data. Okay, now here's where I get up against what is, it's possible I might just want a relational database manager, but I've looked at some NoSQL type databases. I've looked at SDXXL. I've looked at all these ways because basically what I need is a file format that is a B+ tree. Okay, this is something that all the relational databases use, and it's a good algorithm. It's one of the reasons that they're so reliable and so fast. Because I want to be able to have an index, of the times that the videos came in at, or the authors of the video. Kind of a flexible indexing thing, which would naturally happen by creating indexes, or even just with the natural search algorithms of a relational database. So I'm stuck on this in that I'm trying to think, what should I do? Because I could put the whole problem off by making I could just store my string map that I need to be indexed, or my int string map. It's strings, the values could always be strings. I could just store that in a file and read it in and just brute force the whole thing. Of course that's going to break as soon as there's very many records. I really would like to have a mission ready thing. Okay, but I could do that and have the interface, the get and put, because basically I need an associative store. That could be right, so all I change is how I store it on the disk. And that's part of my approach, is to go ahead and defer things that way. But I don't want to put a lot of work into something that needs to be changed. So, looking at things like Berkeley DB, etc., etc. Berkeley DB is, I'm not really sure why I would do that. Maybe I should just start using a SQL database. I have realized that even if this is where, this early stage, I just use a relational database, there's a problem with that, in that that's overkill, and that all I want is integer string maps and string maps, and a way to store them on the disk in such a way that I can do searches on those files without reading the whole file into memory or it taking very long. So yeah, I have a lot of options. There are B trees and various things that do this with certain amounts of overhead. There's some libraries that you can use for free unless you want to make it a commercial product, and then you have to pay for it. I really would like to have standard things, or write my own code that might not be very general purpose, but does the right thing in the case that it's implemented for. So yeah, I was also looking at this thing CouchDB, and that's just not performance oriented enough for me, but it's an interesting thing in that it's similar to the jurisdictional control nodes approach that I'm taking. So I could also use a relational database or some heavyweight thing to do the indexing, with the idea of swapping that out, and then the benefit of that is I don't have to write this thing I'm using right now, but I'd still have to write some sort of interface and learn the interface for that system. So the other thing is, I know how to write I could write a B plus tree myself, but it just seems like you risk data loss and stuff, and I'm really ready to have something usable. So it would make sense to just go ahead and use I don't know, I could even use a constant database. I need a file store, doesn't support all the SQL stuff, just has an index and strings as the objects. That's sufficient for me.